Hel- Hello. We had intro music, but we do not today, but that's okay. How are you doing? Hello.
I'm good. Thanks so much, Charlene. I thought we had the intro music. It didn't go on?
It didn't. Just imagine it in
Uh,
your head, everybody.
sounds good.
Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I love our weekly chats. It's so nice to connect with you each week and with everyone in our audience. We are so glad you're here joining us again today.
I yes, it's been nice learning and thinking a little bit more, and that actually brings us to our overall today's topic is how, when, and why to learn a little bit more every day.
Yes, so we were talking about building trust last week, right? And it really got us thinking about this, right? That we're in an era where we really cannot stop learning because of the massive volume of new tech that comes with us, that comes to us. We were talking about ChatGPT, and what are we on, version 4? Like
Yeah.
that's within 2, 3 weeks. Like,
Yes, and it's funny, I wonder how long it's been in process because for us in our world it's been 2, 3 weeks, but I wonder the people who made it, have they been working on this for years? Probably, I mean,
sure,
for
sure,
sure.
yeah.
I really was thinking about this trust and learning more. I saw a TikTok video of somebody, kind of breaking down if you've seen the TikTok filter that makes you look younger and saying, like, "It's so cute and fun that we're all doing this now and looking at our teenage selves." But just think about how somebody could use that technology, right? Like, in the most awful way, people can misrepresent their age and their self. And I started thinking about, trust and where that is. And I think, Killa, when you and I were talking, it's about just being aware that somebody could actually do that.
It's true. And I think what's harder now is that, when you're in the actual physical world, we're very much able to make our world small. So you live in a town or you go to a job where you know X number of people. But when we go online, that world is blown up. And so we have to become a little bit more savvy. It's kind of like walking in the big city versus walking in a rural neighborhood, right? You go to
Yeah.
the big city, you better watch your pockets. You're going to get pickpocketed. There's so many other people out there, the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And so I think
Yeah.
when we enter into the online world and into the metaverse where that's happening
Oh
now,
my gosh. Right. And that's going to be a whole new layer of being able to, on one hand, so beautifully show on the outside what you feel on the inside in all multitudes of ways. But then on the other hand, being able to mask it just the same.
it's true. It's definitely very tricky. I mean, I know we were talking about this a second ago as well, that I think that this whole tech universe that we're living in and building trust, I think it's more conducive to people who feel more comfortable and fluent in the tech world. And I don't think that has anything to do with age. I've met a lot of younger people who I don't think navigate it so well because it's just too techy for them.
Well, we absolutely know that people are reverting. Some people are going back to the old flip phone and doing different things. But I think the most important is why we learn is just so we know what's possible, right? I think, we've talked a lot about chat GPT, et cetera. You don't have to become an expert on that, but you have to know it exists, right? You have to, there's another TikToker who, she goes through and finds people's birthdays. And it's like, you can't find me. And like she does in about 30 seconds. And it's like deep in, right? She finds your TikTok, then goes to your Facebook. And then your dad wished you happy birthday 10 years ago. And she can tell you your exact birthday. And all of that I
I
think is
lost
I know is
I
fine.
lost your video for a
I
sec.
think I think you just have to know that all of that is possible.
I think so. And I think that when it comes to trust, what's happened is the same way that some people don't want to be in the big city, just using that analogy again, I don't think some people really want to be online because building trust online, it's a little trickier because all uh, the same basics of the physical world still apply. You need time in a relationship to get to know
Yeah.
someone. You need to prove yourself. You need to network to make sure that person is real. But it's ever so much more complicated to do it in an online world where everything can come at you.
Yeah, and going off of that, exactly, everything can come at you. There is so much access. And I think that's, in my opinion, that's sort of one of the barriers to learning. We are inundated all the time with so much information that we actually sometimes just want to shut it down. And sifting through, uh, between just social services, news services, your trusted sources, your friends, it's just trying to navigate, I think, is one of the barriers to even beginning to start to learn and grow.
Charlene, have you ever shut down? Because I think you're like super techie and you're really all into it. Like, do you shut down,
Well,
or are you
I
just
have
like,
to say, like, I'm
feed
out
me?
at ChatGPT 4, I'm out. I'm out. Like, I was, like, all in on it, and then I'm like, I can't do it anymore. I need to, like, pause. I get what's possible. I get all the super cool things because there's also just gonna be a lull between, like, knowing what's possible. We talked about, like, the super users, like, the early adapters, right? And then there's gonna be, like, a long span of time until we are all using whatever, the various technology, right? I'm not currently in the metaverse. I don't know, Paulette, are you? But some people are, right? Some people are meeting that way, I presume. So I think I was like so in it, and I to me that's what one of the downsides to our socials is I was all in it that all of my social feeds were all AI all the time. And I'm like, it was so much. And now I'm like, I can't do it anymore. And I like scroll quickly past it. I would love it if there was a mix of like, here's some AI, here's some fun dances, here's some cooking, whatever, right? But because our algorithms just keep learning and feeding you what they think you want, what you want becomes like this. And so, yeah, recently I'm
I
like,
get
I'm
it.
out. I can't learn
So
anymore.
you basically binge watch ChatGPT, and then by the end of it, you just wanted to throw up because you just like wasted all this time. You're like, I can't take it
Yeah.
anymore. I do
Yeah.
think like that's a major barrier to learning, right? That that it's too much coming at us, and it's like hard to keep track of it. I think another barrier to learning, is that I find that a lot of this learning is just very much by yourself,
Hmm.
right? It's not as if, oh, let's go learn ChatGPT together in a
Right.
physical
Right.
classroom with other people in a group
Right.
dynamic, and let's
Mhm.
all discuss it. Like, it can happen, I think, in some cases. I actually I work somewhere where we brought a group of people together, and that makes a difference. You're in an office, and the group of people are physically discussing it and going back and forth. There's something about that helps people learn.
It's really interesting because I actually think long before the pandemic, YouTube started to change that, right? Where when someone wanted to learn something in the past, maybe they would have sought out somebody who knew it, right? And now it's like, okay, I'm going to look it up on the YouTube first, right? I'm going to look it up and see how to do it. And on one hand, it's like this beautiful way, and there's so many, as you call it, like two-dimensional, right? Like you can be auditory learner and listen to podcasts and visual, and but in the end, it's like sometimes you need that person or people to really like learn. And I think it's more than a kinesthetic learner. I think what you're because you could still do that on your own, right? That's still touching and feeling and doing the something, but it's the confluence of different ideas that push us forward.
I actually really think that the physicality of another human being in your face and in your space does a lot. I actually just went to a Bruce Springsteen concert. Okay, stick with me, it's all going to come together.
I'm ready.
And when you're in a concert, right, or if you're singing in a choir, people's heartbeats actually begin to
Mm,
synchronize, right? And there is just an energy in the space. So I could be at this concert, not know a single song, and still be moved and be excited and enthused and be a part of it. And that physicality is missing. Even though, like, you and I are sitting here and we're talking with each other, you're on one coast of the US, I'm on the other
mhm.
coast, right? And thank God for this tech that's connecting us. There would be a different synergy if we were sitting in a room together, bouncing off of each other. So I do think that that is one of our barriers of learning, that this lack of in-person connection.
Yeah, I think that to wrap us up, actually, we're coming towards the end of the podcast today, but it's really I would say learn your strength, right? Like, yes, absolutely, you should know if you're a visual and auditory learner what you learn when, right? Like, I love listening to business books. I don't love reading them, but I love reading other things, right? So it's like just because you like learning one way for one thing doesn't mean you don't like learning another way. Also, to the opposite, right, Hala, sometimes people are like are processors. And so being in group and community on something they haven't had a chance to think about first is really overwhelming. So if you there could be several stages to learning, right? So first maybe you go on your own, you look up that YouTube video, you think about it, you give your time self time to process, then you find somebody. And in community, you get to work on it together at your own speed. Because I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's really diving into knowing yourself and knowing how you're going to learn.
And I think this is what's gotten a little bit complicated in this world today, right? Because
Mm.
we have to be a lot more evolved than generations before us, right? So we're talking about trust and how to trust other people. And you can't anymore and any longer just do whatever's been done. You have to
Yeah.
really understand your own strengths and weaknesses and really know what resources you have and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And if you're in a position and you think, oh, I'm around too many people, this isn't working for me, then know to go online. If you're online and you're not getting enough interaction, go find someone outside. And doing all of that, I think, is part of what allows us to know who to trust, when to trust,
Yeah.
where to trust, because it allows us to build those networks of connections that work for us.
Yes. And I think the more like everything, the more you practice, the more you'll know what your go-to is and how to build on that.
Completely agree. Well, Charlene, I think we've come on to the end of our day today. Thank you so much again. I love that we do this each week, and hopefully that those of you who are listening in are learning. And please feel free to reach out to us and text us and email us. You can just comment below in the fields that you have in YouTube, wherever you're listening to us, whatever I'm saying.
Yes.
And
Yes.
as always, I'm going to do our tagline, or you can do it. Let's learn a little more every day, right?
Yes. Yes. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Bye.